Professor Darius Voss swept into the university lecture hall with his characteristic air of superiority, his tailored blazer and silver-rimmed glasses reinforcing his self-proclaimed status as the academic elite. For 15 years he had taught advanced algebraic theory at Westridge University, and for 15 years, no student had ever challenged his authority or brilliance. He wore this record like a badge of honor, using it to justify his increasingly dismissive attitude toward those he deemed intellectually inferior, which was virtually everyone. The autumn semester had just begun, and Darius scanned the lecture hall with a mixture of boredom and disdain. His gaze fell upon a woman sitting in the back corner, Linnea Orloff, who appeared to be in her late 20s, with chestnut hair pulled into a simple knot and eyes that remained fixed on her notebook. Unlike the other graduate students eagerly displaying their university merchandise and expensive laptops, she carried only a weathered leather journal and wrote with a simple pencil. "You there in the back," Darius called out during his lecture, irritated by her silence during the discussion. "Perhaps you'd care to enlighten us on the applications of Abel's impossibility theorem?" Linnea looked up briefly, her expression unreadable. "I prefer to listen, Professor," she said softly, her voice carrying a slight accent Darius couldn't quite place. "Listening accomplishes little without participation," he retorted sharply. "Mathematics requires active engagement, not passive absorption." Several students snickered, but Linnea merely nodded and returned to her notebook. Darius felt a flicker of annoyance at being so easily dismissed. Over the following weeks, this pattern continued. Linnea attended every lecture, took meticulous notes, but rarely spoke. When forced to answer, she did so minimally, fueling Darius's assumption that she was struggling with the material. What Darius didn't know was that Linnea had spent the past decade working as a custodian at various universities across Europe, slipping into lectures whenever possible. Born in a small village where education for women was discouraged, she had taught herself mathematics from discarded textbooks and online lectures accessed through public libraries. Now in America on a special scholarship program for non-traditional students, Linnea had learned to keep her abilities hidden, having experienced prejudice too many times before. One evening, as Darius worked late in his office, he noticed the light on in the graduate student lounge. Peering in, he saw Linnea alone at a whiteboard, her pencil moving rapidly as she worked through a complex proof, the very one he had presented as an unsolvable challenge that afternoon. But she wasn't following his approach. Instead, her elegant solution revealed an entirely different method, one he had never considered. Darius stood frozen in the doorway, his worldview beginning to crack. "That's not possible," Darius murmured, his voice startling Linnea, who instantly dropped her hand from the whiteboard. She quickly gathered her things, attempting to leave, but Darius blocked the doorway. "Where did you learn that approach?" he demanded, pointing to the elegant proof that now covered the board. "That's not in any textbook." Linnea's eyes darted toward the exit. "It's nothing, just some ideas." "Ideas don't materialize from nothing," Darius insisted, his professional curiosity overriding his usual condescension. "Those are original contributions to nonlinear dynamic systems, work that's been stumping researchers for years." She hesitated, then spoke with quiet dignity. "Mathematics has always made sense to me. When something is beautiful, I see patterns others might miss." Over the next few days, Darius found himself obsessively reviewing Linnea's work from the student lounge. He begrudgingly recognized the brilliance behind her approach, a brilliance he had dismissed because of her quiet demeanor and unconventional background. His academic arrogance had blinded him to true mathematical talent standing right before him. Meanwhile, Linnea continued her solitary routine, attending lectures, working late nights in empty classrooms, and returning to her modest apartment, where mathematical journals and theorems covered every available surface. She had come to America with one purpose: to finally earn the credentials that would validate the knowledge she had acquired through years of self-study. The midterm examination arrived, and Darius designed it to be particularly challenging. As students filed out looking defeated, Linnea submitted her paper last. Curious, Darius began grading her exam immediately and found himself astonished. Not only had she solved every problem correctly, but she had also included alternative solutions for the most difficult questions, approaches that even he hadn't considered. That evening, Darius called Linnea into his office. "Your exam was—" He paused, struggling to admit what he now knew. "Exceptional." Linnea remained standing, her posture tense. "Thank you, Professor. Why haven't you spoken up in class? Why hide this level of understanding?" Her eyes met his, directly for the first time. "In my experience, Professor Voss, people see what they expect to see. You expected an unremarkable student, so that's what I gave you." Her words struck him like a physical blow. He recognized the bitter truth in them. He had judged her based on superficial observations and his own prejudices. "The university is hosting the International Mathematics Symposium next month," Darius said, changing course. "I think you should present your work on dynamic systems." Linnea's eyes widened with surprise and unmistakable longing, quickly replaced by apprehension. "I'm not ready for that kind of exposure. The mathematical community needs voices like yours," Darius insisted, surprising himself with his sincerity. "Different perspectives drive innovation." As Linnea left his office, Darius remained at his desk, confronting uncomfortable truths about himself. For the first time in 15 years, he questioned whether his reputation for brilliance was truly deserved, or merely the product of institutional privilege that had smoothed his path while creating barriers for others. The transformation in Darius's classroom was subtle but unmistakable. He began acknowledging Linnea's contributions, sometimes asking for her perspective on challenging concepts. The other students noticed the shift, observing with curiosity as their notoriously difficult professor showed genuine interest in the quiet woman's insights. Linnea, however, remained hesitant. Years of invisibility had become her armor, and she wasn't certain she wanted to relinquish it. When Darius asked her to stay after class to discuss her approach to a particular theorem, she reluctantly agreed. "Your method for solving the Richardson equation is unlike anything I've encountered," Darius admitted, the words difficult for a man unaccustomed to acknowledging others' superiority. "I visualize mathematics differently," Linnea explained, gradually, becoming more animated as she described her thought process. "Where most see sequential steps, I see interconnected landscapes." As she spoke, Darius found himself captivated not just by her mathematical brilliance, but by the passion that transformed her usual reserved demeanor. Her hands moved expressively, tracing invisible equations in the air, her accent becoming more pronounced with enthusiasm. "Would you consider co-authoring a paper with me?" Darius proposed suddenly. "Your insights combined with my experience in publication could create something revolutionary." Linnea's expression clouded. "I've submitted papers before, Professor Voss. They were rejected without review when editors saw my lack of credentials." Darius felt a rush of shame, knowing he had likely dismissed similar work in his role as a journal reviewer. "This would be different. My name would ensure it gets read, but your ideas would be the foundation." Their collaboration began tentatively, meeting twice weekly in Darius's office. Initially, their sessions were strictly academic, but gradually personal details emerged. Darius learned of Linnea's childhood in a remote village in Eastern Europe, where she had taught herself calculus while working in her family's orchard. Linnea discovered that beneath Darius's arrogance lay a profound love for mathematics that matched her own. As the International Mathematics Symposium approached, their paper neared completion. Its implications were significant enough that the conference organizers, upon reviewing their abstract, offered them a prime presentation slot. The night before the submission deadline, they worked late in Darius's office, refining their conclusions. "Do you realize what this means?" Darius asked, his usual composure giving way to excitement. "This could change the field's entire approach to stochastic processes." "It seems too good to be true," Linnea admitted, her voice laced with lingering doubt. I've dreamed of contributing something meaningful to mathematics since I was a girl. Darius looked at her intently. You've already contributed more than you know. Working with you has transformed how I think about mathematics and about teaching. For a moment, something electric passed between them, a connection beyond intellectual compatibility. But Linnea quickly looked away, gathering their papers. I should go. It's late, she said, retreating behind her familiar reserve. As she left, Darius remained at his desk, realizing that for the first time in his career, receiving credit for groundbreaking work mattered less to him than ensuring that Linnea's brilliance was finally recognized. The day of the International Mathematics Symposium arrived with unseasonable warmth for October. The university campus buzzed with visiting mathematicians from around the world, eager to share discoveries and debate theories. For Darius, who had presented at countless such events, the familiar excitement was overshadowed by an unfamiliar nervousness. Not for himself, but for Linnea. She had not appeared for their final preparation meeting that morning, and when he called her phone, it went straight to voicemail. By midday, with their presentation scheduled for 3 o'clock, Darius found himself pacing outside the mathematics building, scanning the crowds for her familiar figure. Professor Voss? He turned to find Professor Quintana, the department chair, approaching. Your co-presenter, Ms. Orlov, came to my office this morning. She's withdrawn from the symposium. What? That's impossible, Darius protested. The work is groundbreaking. It's mostly hers. She seemed quite determined, Quintana replied. Said something about not being ready for the attention. You're still welcome to present solo, of course. Darius stood stunned as Quintana walked away. The thought of claiming Linnea's insights as his own was unthinkable, a realization that showed just how much his values had shifted in recent months. Without a second thought, Darius headed to Linnea's apartment building across town. He had driven her home once after a late work session but had never been inside. The neighborhood was modest, populated mainly by students and university staff. When she didn't answer his knock, the building manager, recognizing him as a professor, reluctantly revealed that Linnea had left that morning carrying a suitcase. A cold fear gripped Darius. Had she left the program entirely? Had the pressure of public recognition been too much? Or was it something he had done? Returning to campus, Darius canceled their presentation, ignoring the curious whispers and disappointed colleagues. Instead, he searched for clues to Linnea's whereabouts, eventually finding himself in the graduate student lounge, where he had first discovered her mathematical prowess. The whiteboard still bore traces of equations they had worked on together. As he stared at the fading numbers, a custodian entered to clean the room. Professor Voss, I have something for you. The elderly man handed him a sealed envelope. Ms. Orlov asked me to give you this if you came looking for her. With trembling hands, Darius opened the letter. Professor Voss, forgive my sudden departure. The path from invisibility to recognition is more difficult than I anticipated. The mathematics we've developed together is beautiful and true, but I fear that once in the spotlight, the world will see only my unorthodox background and question my legitimacy. You've shown me that I was wrong about all professors being like those who dismissed me in the past. For that gift of recognition, I am grateful. I've gone to visit my former mentor in Chicago, the only person who encouraged my mathematical studies before you. I need time to decide if I'm ready for the future our work together might create. With respect, Linnea. Darius sat heavily in a chair, the letter clutched in his hand. Her absence created a void he hadn't expected to feel, not just intellectually, but emotionally. In the space of a semester, this quiet woman had dismantled his pretensions and reshaped his understanding of both mathematics and human potential. Making a decision that surprised even himself, Darius pulled out his phone and booked a train ticket to Chicago. The Mathematical Research Center at the University of Chicago sprawled across several interconnected buildings. Darius navigated the corridors with determined steps, asking for directions to the office of Dr. Isadora Merritt, the mentor mentioned in Linnea's files that he had accessed before leaving campus. He found Linnea in a sunlit atrium, deep in conversation, with an elegant older woman whom he recognized as Dr. Merritt, a pioneering mathematician whose work on chaos theory had influenced an entire generation. "Professor Voss," Linnea said when she noticed him, surprise evident in her voice. "How did you find me?" "The mathematical community is smaller than you might think," he replied, his rehearsed speech forgotten at the sight of her. "May we speak privately?" Dr. Merritt excused herself with a knowing smile, leaving them alone among the potted trees and chalkboards that decorated the space. "You shouldn't have canceled the presentation," Linnea began, guilt evident in her expression. "Your career—" "Our work," Darius corrected firmly. "And my career will survive. I'm more concerned with why you left." Linnea turned away, studying the equations scribbled on a nearby board. "The night before the symposium, I overheard 2 visiting professors discussing our abstract. They were speculating that you had done the real work and added my name out. Devincious pity or attraction." Darius felt a surge of anger on her behalf. "That's precisely the kind of prejudice that needs challenging. Running away only reinforces their assumptions." "It's not that simple," she countered. "My whole life I've existed on the margins of academia, cleaning lecture halls while absorbing knowledge I wasn't supposed to access. The idea of standing in front of hundreds of mathematicians claiming my place." She shook her head. "It terrified me." "What terrified you more?" Darius asked gently. "Failure or success?" The question hung between them as Linnea considered it. "Perhaps both," she finally admitted. "Success would mean visibility, expectations, scrutiny, and a chance to inspire others like yourself," Darius added. "When I first met you, I was the embodiment of everything wrong with academic gatekeeping. You changed that, changed me, simply by being undeniably brilliant." He moved closer, his voice softening. "I didn't come here just for the mathematics, Linnea. These past months working with you, I've never felt more challenged or more alive." A blush colored Linnea's cheeks. "Are you saying—" "I'm saying that I've fallen in love with your mind," Darius interrupted, surprising himself with his honesty, "and with the person behind it. The thought of continuing without you, in research or in life, seems impossible now." Linnea's eyes widened, and for a moment Darius feared he had overstepped. Then slowly, a smile transformed her face. "Dr. Merritt offered me a research position here," she said, "to work on expanding our theories." Darius felt his heart sink. "Chicago is a fine institution, but," Linnea continued, stepping closer, "I told her I needed to consult with my co-author first. Our work is unfinished, Darius, both mathematically and personally." Understanding dawned in his eyes. "The International Journal of Pure Mathematics is still accepting submissions for their special edition. We could rework our paper, and I could return to finish my degree," Linnea added, a new confidence in her voice. "On one condition." "Name it," Darius said without hesitation. "When we present our work at next year's symposium, we stand as equals. No more hiding, no more assumptions from either of us." Darius took her hand, feeling the pencil calluses that matched his own. "I wouldn't have it any other way." 6 months later, the academic world buzzed with discussions of the Orlov-Voss theorem, a revolutionary approach to algebraic topology with applications across multiple fields. And in a small office at Westridge University, 2 heads, one dark, one silver, bent together over a shared notebook, equally passionate about mathematics and each other, writing equations for a future neither could have calculated alone.